Hello and welcome to the next SIW. I do not remember what number we are on, but we're pushing it. We got some good ones and a janky one, but I like to put the janky ones at the end just for a little spice. So yeah, we'll get into it. Two samurai bangers by, starring the legendary Mifune and directed by one of the best, most well-regarded director in Japanese cinema and in the world too. He's very popular. We have the new action movie by Thor's actor, whose name's not up because I didn't open all the browser tabs, so I should do that. And one pretty janky but kind of fun anthology Japanese horror movie. So we'll get right into that, starting with the samurai movies. Alright, to start off, we have Yojimbo, 1961, directed by Akira Kurosawa. You might have heard of him before. He is a very, very well-regarded director. I think his most famous thing is probably Rashomon. I feel like a lot of references are to that. He also directed Ran, which inspired Star Wars. I actually don't have too much experience with him. I'm looking through his list now. I think I've seen a remake of Seven Samurai plus the Gonzo anime a while ago. So this might be my first Akira Kurosawa movies. I'm not entirely sure, but that's pretty cool. I thought it was very excellent. Obviously he is a technical genius. I do think I know a bit more technical stuff than maybe the average movie viewer, but I'm definitely not an expert, so I don't really want to comment on too much, but there's definitely nothing I dislike, and there's a lot that I liked. It is monochrome, black and white, so if you don't like that, then maybe it's a problem, but I feel like it's fine. You get used to it very easily. And this one, Yojimbo, inspired a lot of Western movies, which is also very interesting. And you can see it. I haven't watched a lot of Western movies, but there are definitely some trends to get into. So the basic premise of the movie, there's a wandering samurai, aka Ronin, who comes into this town that is currently on lockdown, and there's a feud between two gangs. And he's basically, the story is he's trying to help the town by getting rid of them and being pretty smart about it, while turning them against they're already against each other, but manipulating them to remove them from the town, basically. And it is a very, very fun movie. Again, we have Mifune as the lead, who we talked about in Samurai Rebellion, and I haven't seen him too much again, but I thought he played this character very, very well. He's a very charismatic and fun, quirky character. He's smart, but he's also insanely skilled, doing another 1v10 like in Samurai Rebellion. He's very, very skilled. He's not perfect, he's very cocky, and you can see his cockiness does get him in trouble, but he's a very, very entertaining character to watch, which is what steals the show. Again, there's a lot of Western elements. I'm just guessing, but there probably are a lot of Westerns premised on two gangs ruling a town. There was the idea of all the shops are closed except for the coffin maker, who just keep making coffins. I feel like that's definitely from a Western, because I've heard of that before. Fighting at high noon, the corrupt sheriff, all that stuff. So that was pretty entertaining to watch. It's kind of amazing how much this director has inspired, which is just a claim to fame, I guess. I think one of the main draws for me to this too was the soundtrack. It was such a banger, dude. It was so upbeat and fancy with all the instrumentals. Even if you don't want to watch this movie, I definitely recommend at least giving a couple of the songs a try. I guarantee you it is super fun. Action scenes were good as expected. choreography wise, Mifune with all his experience definitely performs well. That was a given. It is always fun to watch him just mow down a bunch of people almost inhumanly, but I guess that is but that's fine. It's a movie. I like to see that insane stuff. The villains were like, the side characters were fun. There's like some dumb ones that were entertaining. There's always a tinge of comedy in I mean, not always, but there is a tinge of comedy in the movie, which made it pretty fun too. Comedy always, I mean, it doesn't always go well with action, but if you do it well, it goes well with action. And the main evil guy with the gun, who just shows off his gun all the time, is also a very fun villain. If I get the poster right, he should be in the poster. The smud-looking guy with the gun. But yeah, great movie, great piece, very entertaining. And I really, really enjoyed it. I feel like I'm just regretting reviewing Samurai's Promise and saying that samurai movies are kind of have a low bar because they all feel this traditional sameness, but this was very unique, very fun. So I retract those words. All right, I was wrong. I've been like Samurai Rebellion, I've been proved wrong too many times. I just need to watch the classics because these are actual bangers. So I would 100% recommend you to watch this. I mean, I guess you should be watching some of those movies on the videos if you want to since but this is definitely fun. Next we have Sanjuro, which is a sequel to Yojimbo. So I didn't say it's because it doesn't actually have any, just it's a fake one. Very fun. Interesting from what I read. This is actually the same book that they adjusted the book to fit the character from Yojimbo, so it's not like a complete sequel. But this one's just useful because he really made the series, and I would have guessed that this wasn't originally created to fit Mifune's character, but it fits him so well. This is another comedic banger. Again, it follows a lot of Yojimbo, but it doesn't have like the general storyline, but not like the elements of Western stuff. Again, he's being very crafty, and this time he's helping some young samurais free their clan from corruption. So it has a lot of elements of him being smart because he is, again, outnumbered even with his mini squad, manipulating people to make them look silly, like the quick wit. It's all there. It's all connected with Yojimbo. I forgot to give the Yojimbo rating. I'm fine with giving it like a 9 out of 10, honestly. It was like one of the best action comedies I've seen in a while. And definitely the best samurai thing I've seen. And I feel like this is very, very comparable to it. Like the crew was fine. I think maybe it loses some of its antagonistic cast. Like I thought that the main antagonists weren't as interesting and funny as some of the other ones, and some of the antics weren't as good. But I think the scale is fine. Like I know some people like this. Not a lot less, but since the other one's so high, I guess it's not technically a lot. But I thought this was very, very, very comparable. It does feel like a proper sequel with similar messages. It does actually have the final boss from a Samurai Rebellion in it too, which I noticed midway. So that was kind of cool to see him versus Mifune again for the final duel, with the bloody spectacle. Because I remember watching the movie, and then it was like one of my comments was down, it's not very bloody, and then literally that last duel happened, and I was like, oh god, that is so great. Again, choreography's awesome, the character's awesome to see. It is again, a very fun time following Mifune's character. He's just such a likable character that you want to root for, and it's pretty unexpected because again, he's super smart, so you're not gonna. So it's unpredictable. That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, maybe not too much to say. I think this was maybe slightly less entertaining than Yojimbo, but I'm fine with giving it an 8. It is a perfect movie to pair. Like if you ever want to go on a super movie spree and watch 2 movies. I guess that's not a super spree, but these 2 are good to watch in succession. Both very entertaining. The scale in this one was a bit bigger. I think there's like situations, but yeah. So I guess this one, there's definitely some very intense moments in this one. But I guess nothing beats the escaping scene from Yojimbo. Yeah, I guess Yojimbo is better, but this is still great. And then not too much. I feel like if I talk about anything technical, I'm just gonna be wrong since this is probably such a both of the movies are probably so well covered. But I guarantee it, I'll put my stamp of approval. These are 2 if you are interested in samurai movies and you just want to get into them, I think these 2 movies are a very, very good start for comedic samurai movies, comedic action ones. And I guess Samurai Rebellion would be a good suggestion for more serious drama type ones. So there you go. Great movie. Next movie, we have a Netflix movie. Woo! Extraction starring Chris Hemsworth. I'm sorry for calling you Thor. I'm sure that might get annoying later on in life. But it is a Hollywood action movie. Now, I usually don't I just talked about 2 comedy action movies, but I think those are pretty big exceptions. I usually don't go out of my way to watch these, unless I'm like with friends or something for an entertaining time, but it's usually not my style having these dramatic Hollywood ones with either very, very cheesy comedy or just a lot of boom boom, no story. But this one was fine. It was pretty good, actually. The action was insane. Very, very comparable to like John Wick and stuff. So if you are definitely into action, if you really enjoy action scenes, then this is definitely a movie for you. I think story-wise, it's just whatever. Chris Hemsworth's character is very, very standard. I feel like there are a bunch of movies starring a badass mercenary or whatever he is, who's like super depressed because something bad has happened, and then you slowly see him redeem himself or whatever in the movie. That is just a common trope. So I didn't really care too much about his character. He could definitely fight, and he was like, despite like all this super skill stuff, he was also like super strong. And again, another movie with somebody like 1v, but this time it was literally like his kill count had to be in the 3 digits. Like it's actually insane in this movie. It's kind of more impressive with guns, right? Like at least, I mean, swords obviously it's very hard, but like I just like dodging bullets. I don't know. It was insane. And I guess I haven't watched too many movies based on India, so the scenery was nice. Or is it India? It might not be India. I don't even know, dude. I was just munching on popcorn and half paying attention, but it was fun to watch. A very and it doesn't have the comedy though, but it's very, very like actiony, which is a compliment. I do think I enjoy this more than action movies with bad comedy in it, because at least it's like a little tense. I think my favorite part of this, because there was like one or a couple of scenes that I thought were pretty well shot. I really liked the shots in the first car chase where the camera driver was like in the back of a car, and then after that the camera was like following the police squads and the guys fighting on in the apartment buildings. I thought that was very cool. It was definitely imitating like almost a POV shot. Like it felt like even though no one's there, like it wasn't from someone's point of view. It almost felt like you were in there, like you were in the back of the car during the car chase, looking around. You were there when they were fighting through apartments. So that was probably my favorite scene from the movie. Yeah, I mean, this one's even harder to talk about because all you can say is fun action, very fun scenes. Story wise, again, standard. I didn't really like the ending. I mean, the ending climax fight scenes were great, but the actual ending himself, because I kind of liked the bad guy. He didn't have too much development, but he had enough to make him pretty cool. Like his first scene was him ordering his bodyguard to throw a kid off the roof, which was pretty brutal. So I thought I kind of liked them, but I thought the ending was kind of unneeded. And the cheesy ending of, oh my god, is he alive? I mean, he literally got shot in the neck, but I guess maybe he's alive. I don't know. It's alright. It's not my style of movie, but I can definitely say it is a fun movie to watch, at least. At least the action scenes are entertaining. So yeah, if you are into action movies, go ahead. It'll be a nice 2 hour watch. It's a little long, 2 hours. But whatever, it's fine. They definitely could have trimmed some fat. But yeah, you want to see Chris Hemsworth carry a hostage and kill like people in the hundreds by himself, then this is the movie for you. And finally, we have the anthology series Dark Tales of Japan from 2004. For my janky pit of the week, it's alright. It's definitely nothing great, but it is at least entertaining. I was entertained throughout the whole thing. So I guess we'll talk about each story separately, since it is anthology. I don't know if they're by different directors. I'm assuming, because they all felt fairly different. So that's I am a fan of anthology horror stories, both Japanese, both anything anthology, because I feel like horror in short films, well, not short films, but like shorter stories is generally better. Like I feel like an average anthology horror movie is better than an average horror movie, if that makes sense, because fear is definitely like a fleeting emotion. Like if you have like a topic of fear for like a 2 hour movie, then you will eventually get used to it and it won't be scary. But having all these different flavors of people making different horror stories is pretty entertaining. So first, there's like in anthologies, there's usually like a main story where you'd have like a scene to take a break from the horror stories. Like there's usually a main one with a mini story. That one was whatever. I honestly couldn't care less about that one, so I won't even talk about it. We won't include that, so it's fine. The first one was called Spider Woman. It was alright. It had horrible CG, but this is already low budget, so I've always said low budget shouldn't do CG, but the CG was laughably bad. But it was kind of a fun story. It's basically a gossip crew a gossip magazine publishing a story about Spider Woman urban legend, and it blows up and it gets really popular, so they like want to explore it to get more into it. And spoiler alert, it's real. I think the most fun part was when they were reading like the fan mails, and then there's just a bunch of interpretations or other people's stories about the Spider Lady, some being false, some being real. Just kind of see different fun shots. I guess the spookiest thing for me was like in one of the stories it actually showed like a girl on all fours like crawling really fast, like in one of the mails, and I think that's pretty creepy. Crawling spooky girls is definitely a good trait. There's the really bone breaking like staggered steak from Juan. Staggered crawling from Juan. There we go. That I really like, but super fast ones are kind of spooky too. Like someone going unnaturally fast. So that was kind of fun. I also think it was kind of funny at the beginning when they were talking about the legend because they didn't know what to name it, so they were calling it the Turbo Head or the Turbo Baba. I thought that was pretty hilarious. It really rings. The spider stuff itself was kind of creepy, like when they interviewed the woman, but the the climax was kind of laughably bad. So it was a fun and it was fun. It was bad, but it was interesting at least. So the next story was Crevices, which I think was the spookiest story for me. It is the shortest and most simple one, which is good. Short, simple. Don't use bad CG, just make it simple, and it's good. And it was pretty unique too. It's basically a story about a landlord calling a benefactor of a person who hasn't paid their rent in like a couple months. So they go into the house and they see like all the crevices taped up. And it's basically about a story of some sort of ghost or some sort of being that lives in the crevices. And it's kind of spooky. Again, there's no special effects. It was all just hands coming out of a spooky hand coming out of a crevice. But it's a pretty interesting idea. Like you're trapped in a house where a ghost or whatever, the creature can attack you from all crevices. So you want to tape it up. And it was a fun, interesting idea. It kind of falls into weird horror for Ito Junji. It wasn't that level, but it was on the same train tracks, you know. So it was alright. I like that one. It got the most spooks of me. And just in general, the idea of being attacked when you're near a crevice does tailor to my liking of suspense horror, which again is horror that you know something's gonna happen, but they kind of drag it out longer, which makes it more suspenseful, which happens in this, so I like that. Water break. Then we had Sacrifice. I thought this one was alright. It's basically the story of a woman who's getting cursed from the guy because she rejected him when he asked her out. So she goes to her hometown to see some spooky stuff happening with the mom. I don't want to get into it too. I mean, it's a very, very easy story to comprehend. It's basically like, I guess their family has I mean, I'm just gonna spoil this movie because I'm guessing out of all of them, you're probably not gonna watch this one. I wouldn't recommend it either. But it's whatever. Yeah, but this story is basically like they have some sort of ritual, their family, where they can sacrifice their life if someone else is in danger, and the grandma did it to save the mom, and now the mom's doing it to like stop the curse and kill the cursor. It's an interesting story, interesting premise, but there's not too much to it. I think the best thing is they do have, I believe it's CG. I mean, it's definitely CG, but there's like this giant CG head. It kind of looks like the head of Jabba the Hutt. It was kind of spooky. I liked it. That's the best part of it. The giant Jabba the Hutt head chomping on the mom. Does that sound interesting? I don't know. It's probably not going to be as interesting as that sounded, but decent. That story was Blonde's Quaden. I'm probably saying that wrong, but that is a famous Japanese story. I've seen like 2 iterations of it, and I didn't even know this, but I guess I didn't remember them enough because I didn't really connect the story to this one. But it's basically a guy going to LA for a business trip, and then he gets a call that his boss died, and he's living in his boss's house, and obviously there's a stigma that you shouldn't visit someone else's houses when they died in Japan, I believe. And then he gets attacked by the blonde Quaden. It was interesting, and it had a blonde spooky girl, which you usually don't see in a Japanese horror. Usually the spooky girls are Japanese, but it was like an American blonde girl, which wasn't as spooky, but hey, not bad. Now the final story. I think while Crevices was the spookiest, this one was the most interesting plot-wise, and probably the greatest twist of them all. It was starring my boy, Teruyuki Tagawa. If you've watched my J-drama stuff, the one before this, then I've mentioned him a lot, but I really like him. So it was very, very surprising that he would be in this low-budget horror movie. I guess I don't know their statuses of the actors in Japan, but he's been in so much that I thought he would be worth a bit more. But I guess this is, again, from 2004, so it's probably pretty early in his acting career. But it was very great to see him. It definitely woke me up a bit. I'm like, oh my god, is that the man? His performance is fine. Again, it's not like he had a lot to work with in a short film, but he played his character well enough, as expected, so yeah, it got some star power. But the story is pretty interesting. I'm just gonna spoil it to talk about it, but the story is basically ghosts are going on a trip organized by some other spirit being, watching people die because it helps them feel like they're living. So basically the story is these three ghosts are watching Teruyuki before his moments to die, and that's an interesting story about of like ghosts going on like tours watching people die so they feel some sort of feeling of life again. And it's very unexpected. Like, I thought they were ghosts because they kind of looked like ghosts with their old clothing, but I didn't expect that plot line, so that was fun. So yeah, that's it in general. Some janky stories, some interesting, one sort of spooky stuff, but it's sort of a jank fest. I wouldn't recommend it. I'm giving it a 5 out of 10, but it's definitely not the worst. And again, if you are a big anthology fan, then I guess there's nothing wrong with checking this one out. It's definitely not the worst anthology I've seen. So to conclude, I think Yojimbo definitely takes the MVP, but I mean, if you're gonna watch Yojimbo, you might as well also watch Sanjuro as well. Extraction's an alright action movie, whatever. Fun action. And Dark Tales of Japan it's something. It's a Teruyuki Kagawa banger for the last one, alright? Is that enough to bring you there? It would almost be enough. I didn't even check the actors. I just chose this randomly, so I'm kind of happy about that. But yeah, I wonder. It was decent. I definitely didn't regret my time with it, so well-deserved 5 out of 10. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. It's always fun doing these. Next week might be J-dramas again. Or it might be normal TV stuff, because I don't watch a lot of TV shows, but I've watched 3 recently, so 1 more is enough to make a video of that. Or we might just double up in movies. That's always an option, so yep, hopefully you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.